Hi everyone, my name is Jenny, and in today's video I want to talk about the 7 biggest rookie mistakes someone can make that can sometimes even lead up to thousands of dollars down the drain if you are not careful when buying watches. Since the watch market has been so up and down, we get a lot of new people joining this hobby, and with that I also get a lot of messages lately from those of you who just started out with collecting luxury watches or watches in general. And I mean, it is totally understandable that there are so many questions floating around, since you don't want to make any mistakes starting out, especially because those kinds of mistakes tend to be the pricey ones too. So that's why I want to share with you the 7 biggest mistakes that I keep seeing and hearing from people who are just starting out when it comes to buying their first watches. But after watching this video, you should be on the safe side. And at this point, I want to thank today's sponsor for this video, Rolex, for supporting the channel, but I will get to that in a bit. So let's get started. Okay, let's start with mistake number 1, lots of beginners tend to do, and that is buying watches off of a private seller. And let me put a little bit very important disclaimer here. I do not by no means want to say that there aren't any legit private sellers or that private sellers are bad in general. Nah. But if it is your first time ever big watch purchase and you don't have much or any experience with watches at all, I think it is best to make use of that option at a later point in time. And yes, I know oftentimes the best prices and offers are found with private sellers. When looking at Rolex watches, there are sometimes price differences of a couple of $1,000s when compared to professional watch dealers. To put it short, there are mainly 2 issues here when buying off of a private seller. Number 1, there are usually either no or significantly less buyer's rights when buying off of a private seller, depending on where you live in the world. So if your newly bought watch stops working after a few weeks, you would eventually have a really tough time getting compensated for the damages or costs, if you even get anything at all. So who has to pay for the repair in 9 out of the 10 cases? Well, yeah, that's gonna be you, pal. The second issue is unfortunately the increased number of scams and overall dodgy people who are trying to rip off others on the internet. Of course, this isn't only a luxury watch problem, but watches seem to be a very popular niche amongst those scammers. A lot of stories go along like, someone finding a great offer online and then buying from a private seller and sending the money over and then never receiving a watch or something along those lines. This is only the very simplest of scams, and those criminals have become extremely smart when it comes to defraud someone. So here's my advice. If you haven't already bought a couple of watches before, do not buy off of a private seller for the first time, on sites like eBay, Craigslist, or marketplaces, since there are private sellers on there too. So instead of buying off of a private seller, I recommend, checking out offers from authorized dealers or professional, pre-owned watch dealers you can find on the internet or platforms. Yes, prices are usually a bit higher than there, but you usually get at least 1 year of warranty and the peace of mind that your watch is authentic. And in case anyone out there watching this is thinking about purchasing a watch in the very near future, I've got something that is definitely going to help you with that, because today's sponsor, Rolex, is not only one of the biggest pre-owned watch dealers with hundreds of different watches and offers online, but they also gave me a special promo code for my viewers. So when buying a watch at Rolex.com, you should use my code JENNISPECIAL to get taken off up to $2,000 on your next purchase. I myself bought my lovely Yachtmaster 37 from Rolex and I'm super happy with it. They have in-house watchmakers who check every watch that is coming in and going out, so you don't have to worry about authenticity at all. They ship out watches to almost every corner of the world, but you can also use their worldwide pickup lounges if you want to. So make sure to use a Jenni special on your next purchase from Rolex until the 31st of August to save money on your next watch. Okay, mistake number 2 is unfortunately the no longer so rare occurrence of unknowingly buying a fake watch. I'm sure at this point most of us have seen these fake watch sellers somewhere on vacation, selling these $50 Rolex fakes that are pretty easy to spot. But nowadays, for about $500 to $600, you can also buy replicas. Even professionals or actual watchmakers are having a hard time telling apart from the authentic one. I mean, you can see it for yourself. I have reviewed and even opened up a couple of these watches, so if you're interested in that. You can watch my real versus fake videos that I've put for you in the description box down below. But it can get even worse. There are these so-called Frankenwatches, you know the name taken from Frankenstein's monster, that mix and match authentic Rolex parts with replicated ones. So like a mix and mash of fake and authentic stuff. Assembled, they would cost someone about $5,000, but with prices on the secondhand market these days, one can sell them easily for like $20,000 or more, depending on the model and watch, if you find someone who isn't able to tell the difference or hasn't got much experience with watches. So I guess the moral of these stories is that it is good to be smart and careful when buying watches. Make sure you're well informed and can trust the offer and the seller. I guess mistake number 3 is something a bit more general, as it can apply to lots of other things too, and it is wanting something so bad that you start making dumb choices or decisions. Especially when buying watches, this can get very tricky. Buying watches is almost always a very, emotionally charged purchase, I would say. So you can easily, subconsciously trick yourself into thinking that something is a good purchase without it actually being one. I mean, let's take me, for example. Last year, around fall, I really wanted to get a Nomos. I mean, I wanted to get a Nomos for a long time. So on a whim, and because I felt particularly spendy that day, I went to one of my ADs and looked at a Nomos. They didn't stock the one I, originally fancied, but I found another one that looked amazing. So I started the usual back and forth discussion in my head with myself, but I already came into the shop that day having my mindset on, not leaving without a watch. So I knew it was lost from the beginning. And then on top of it, it was also the same day where ADs were stocked with the, at that time, latest release from Oris, the Aquis upcycle. And I just happened to come across the press release earlier that day. So seeing it in the flesh was even more exciting because they showed it to me. So, to make it short, I walked out buying both watches, even though I didn't really have the money. I went ahead and, impulse bought 2 watches, neither of which I initially planned on buying. Luckily, I was able to still somehow pay my bills that month. But yeah, it's definitely something I do not plan on doing again. These watches are great, but still, so please don't make the same mistake I did and only buy with the money you actually have. Right, let's get to my next point, paying too much. That is mistake number 5. And now you're probably like, oh wait, Jenny, didn't you say in point number 1 that you should rather spend a bit more to be, rather safe than sorry? And yeah, I did say that, but what I also mean is that you shouldn't just, away money since no one has money to hand out like that. Am I right? Good. So here's the quick breakdown of what I mean with this. Most watches, except for a few brands like Patek or Rolex, are usually more affordable when buying pre-owned. Let's look at an example. So here we have a IWC Portofino automatic with a retail price of $5,050. But if you're doing a bit of a marketplace search, you can find offers starting from $4,500 if you want to stay within the US, which is already 10% less. And if you, scroll down, you'll find even more offers way below that. So yeah, again, don't just blindly shop for either the most expensive or the lowest offer, but be well informed about the overall pricing depending on the option, and find a reputable and trustworthy source to buy from so you do not spend more than you actually have to. Oh, and don't forget that authorized dealers, so ADs, are sometimes willing to give a discount too, so you can always, politely ask if you want to. Okay, this one is really dependable on where you live, so please make sure to inform yourself. So, of course, we are talking about tax evasion. It's not unusual for some people to buy watches while traveling, especially these, airport boutiques tend to be very popular because they don't really have, regular customers due to them being, at an airport. Or when you're out and about on vacation in a different country and head to an AD in hopes to find your new favorite watch there, because sometimes prices can be significantly cheaper compared to your country of origin or where you come from and where you live. But please make yourself aware of the tax situation in your country and how you have to deal with expensive items you bring back into your home country when you get back. Let me give you an example here. A couple of years back, Kai and I went on holiday outside of the EU, and went into an AD. We looked at, a couple of watches that we liked and we were thinking about buying one. And when we asked about the taxes and what to do with it when we come back to Germany, the sales associate told us to, just simply put the watch on your wrist and just, walk through security, and that they would mail us the box and papers afterwards. We weren't quite sure if that's legal, so we, stepped away from the purchase, and thank God we did, because that would have been tax evasion if we just pretended like nothing happened and just walked through security. And here's why. I live in Germany, which is part of the European Customs Union. So whenever I buy something outside of that union, I have to pay 90% tax on it to make up for the difference. If I do not do that and get caught, I at least have to, pay double, and in worst cases have to, go to court because of tax evasion. And it's not like customs investigation officers at airport don't know what to look out for. We have been stopped several times and asked to show a receipt for our watches, so they know where we, bought it and when we did it, and they do check for everything. Tax is paid on it, the serial number matches it, etc. So don't think you can be sly and trick them. It doesn't work, and it is never worth it. So yeah, I'm repeating myself. Please make sure you know exactly how to properly handle watch purchases you made outside of your country of origin when coming back home. Sometimes, great offers someplace else turn out to be true nightmares when you realize how much you have to pay back in taxes. Right, let's talk about mistake number 6, and that is making false assumptions about the worth of your watch, or thinking your watch is an investment in general. And yeah, there are layers to that statement, so let me quickly explain what I mean by that. I'm sure we all hate to burn money, so we tend to justify our watch purchases by saying they can be, potential investments. I mean, I do that sometimes, and so far, it has not been the end of my world. But there are two sides to that. The first one being is that you blindly buy a watch with money you don't really have, expecting it to either, go up in value, or that you'll be able to securely park your money that way, and that you'll easily and quickly be, just able to get the same or more money back when selling that watch. Like you see your watch being offered for like 20k on Chrono24 and thinking you can easily make those 20k when selling it, which is simply and unfortunately just not the case. Most prices on online marketplaces are slightly or sometimes heavily inflated, since dealers have to not only pay a fee when offering and selling their watches online, so they put that on top, but they also have to factor in other costs into that price, like haggling, etc. It is safe to say that you could always deduct at least, I want to say, 20% of your initial price to know what you can expect to get back, to not get too disappointed. Because on the other side, if you do it that way, you will have a better time, reinvesting that money into different watches to be able to switch up your watch collection, should you ever want to do that, and not needlessly burn money doing so. Right, lastly, I want to talk about something I'm sure most of us, if not everyone, has experienced at some point, and it is as simple as it is a total money burner, and that is being impatient. And this can negatively affect not only your buying but also your selling process when it comes to watches. I mean, I touched on that when I talked about mistake number 3, which was wanting something a bit too badly to, think straight. When you start getting impatient, you start missing all the important points you should be taking a good look at in order to not make any mistakes when buying a watch. I mean, common sense goes out the window, because it can sometimes be so highly emotional when buying a watch that you end up, in the worst case, regretting buying a watch at the end and not being able to enjoy it properly. And the same goes for selling a watch, especially if you want to sell one to fund another. Most times you have to be a bit patient, in order to find the right buyer for your preferred price, but it's obviously worth it. But if you have already set your eyes on something new and you cannot wait to get your hands on it, you're easily tempted to, let go of your old watch for way less than you initially planned on. And nobody wants that, let's be real. Right, and here we have it, 7 of the most common and expensive mistakes you can make when getting started in this hobby. I have had a lot of new people joining this channel recently, and this is fine and lovely. Welcome everyone who's new, and welcome back if you've been here before. So I wanted to take the time to get this out, so there are a few people out there making bad choices and regretting them at the end. But if you follow everything I have just mentioned, there should be no problemo and you're good to go. In case you have any more questions you want me to answer, make sure to subscribe to my channel, as well as follow me on Instagram. You can find me there at JenniL, so you do not miss when I put the posts up for my upcoming Q&As in which I answer your questions. And that was all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed this, make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit the bell to get notified whenever I post something new. And then until next time.
Thanks. Until next time.
Bye.